That's right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Yahoo half-hour showdown, single game, whatever you want to call it. I believe single game is the right terminology here for our friends at Yahoo. Looking forward to talking a little Chicago Bears and my Minnesota Vikings, which is always going to be a hairy sticking point when it comes to analyzing it from fantasy aspect. But I'm Eric Lindquist. I'm alongside my buddy who I didn't know if I was going to get to do a show today with all the changes, all the rearranging of the schedules to account for 2 Monday Night Football games. But Matt Savoca, my guy, how you doing?
Doing great. Following up live before lock. We usually get to do live before lock Monday nights as well. Of course, not the case, but we're digging into this game. I believe it is called Yahoo Single Game. That is the whole rigmarole there is the name of the game there. And so really excited to dig into this one. Minnesota, a touchdown favorite, but they've blown easier situations before. So I'm sure you know this, but I'm hoping for better days for them, for you at least, and for other Vikings fans.
I will say yesterday was a really good day as a Viking fan, seeing the Lions thrash the Cardinals. That made me feel a lot better. It was like chicken soup for the soul, you know, like those old school books or whatever. It was like, oh, this is nice and comforting to see that happen. Something that would also make me feel warm and fuzzy. Hit that like button if you're watching us here. We're covering half an hour. I'm filling in for Pete McCarthy here today. Miss our friend, but you know what? I'm looking forward to talking my team with my buddy Matt, and it doesn't get a whole lot better than that. And if you're new to Yahoo Fantasy, here's what you got to do. You got to go deposit $10 or more because that will get you a $120 value of Awesemo Plus Platinum for 1 month completely free. That is completely free, no questions asked. And use promo code XMAS100. That's XMAS100. Look at me. I can spell. If you do that, you will get $100 of free first match deposit bonus. That's as simple as it gets. That's a 2-for-1 special here at Kmart. Oh, rip Kmart. But I'm just letting you know, you want to use that promo. Yahoo has the best contest period. You've got a 12% management fee here tonight. For this contest, we're going to cover the 100K Monday Night Football Baller. 33% of the entries are going to be paid out, so a little bit flatter payout structure than what you might find on other sites as well. That makes your money last a lot longer here as you're gearing for that top prize, which of course is going to be what we're gearing towards. What my friend Matt Savoca over there is going to be able to help you guys achieve. But let's get into it, Matt. Your first impressions of this football game here. We have a 6.5, as you said, just nearly a touchdown favorite here. 45.5 total, a little bit larger total than most Bears games, but that's what happens when the Vikings come to town.
Yeah, and honestly, a 44.5, 45 point total, that's not nothing on a slate like this. Week 15 has been very weird, a lot of unders, and so honestly, we could get a solid shootout here. If this game went well over its score, it wouldn't be that shocking. It probably means the Bears offense kept pace with a Vikings offense that actually ranks 11th in PFF's team offensive grades. So, there's some solid shootout potential here, more so than I would have thought at the beginning of the season, looking at this matchup between the two teams.
Well, yeah, we saw Justin Fields with a pulse the other night, which hasn't always been the case here lately for Justin Fields. I think we can all agree the guy's got immense talent. You don't go to Ohio State for free. You know what I mean? Well, you do if you're really good at football. You get to go for free, but you basically don't get invited there for free. It's a ridiculous amount of talent that he's got. It has not come to fruition here in the early stages of his career, but against the Packers in prime time, with the help of Jakeem Grant just running amok in that game, a lot of points put up there. We could be looking at the same here tonight, but let's get into this. We go position by position here on this show, and let's start with the visiting quarterback here, Kirk Cousins, who, do you know what his grading is on PFF here for the current season? I bet you do.
I actually don't have it with me immediately, but I know it's high. I know it's top 10. Isn't it like 8?
He was second coming into this week. He's now fallen to fourth here behind Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, who have already played. So it doesn't account for this week's of data. So coming into this week, Kirk Cousins was PFF's second graded quarterback. That's madness. No.
Absolutely insane. And there is some pretty solid positive correlation between PFF grade and fantasy points scored, because efficiency at the quarterback position ultimately leads to fantasy scoring. But one of the things I've been looking at, basically Kirk Cousins, we know who he is within this offense for the most part. Sure, he has spike games here, but he's averaging 19.7 fantasy points per game this year. Last year, he averaged 20.0 fantasy points per game. I really think we can say within this Vikings offense that is rush-oriented, but gets its star players involved, Cousins has a capability of having a big game, but his star players can get there without Cousins having a huge game. I will say, though, at the superstar position, I know we can go into this a little bit further, his value score at the superstar position specifically looks like the best value of any play. So I know it's not a great tournament option, but I do think, especially when you're just playing small fields, Kirk Cousins is a fantastic superstar option.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I want to do with Kirk Cousins is going to come down to the availability of Adam Thielen. Like for me as a Viking fan, the guy expresses a lot more upside when you have Adam Thielen there in the red zone. For whatever reason, it just becomes a red zone target for him. 10 touchdowns now in 12 games. We'll get to him at the wide receiver position. I think a very fascinating play for Yahoo. We got to be watching that news. And of course, we'll have Live Before Lock. It'll be Neil and myself leading you guys up to lock here tonight of that single game show. But before that, check out NFL Live Before Lock for this lovely 2-gamer that we have here. There are some decent two game contests over on Yahoo, so check those out as well. But that'll be Lofty, and that'll be my friend over here, Matt Savoca, at Draftaholic on Twitter. Go give him a follow as we're getting through this here. But let's get to the other side of the quarterback. We had alluded to him, but Justin Fields finally put together a decent enough game there. He did it with everybody watching. He, had 74 rushing yards, which I think has always been one of the major appeals for people who had drafted him or maybe overdrafted him in best ball, hoping that he would get the reins. Well, he's kind of de facto fallen into it here, but 20.36 Yahoo points the other night against the Packers in primetime, 18 for 33, 224 with 2 passing touchdowns. You get those interceptions as well, but if he's going to be moving the football, I mean, Minnesota is a much, much worse defense, I think, than Green Bay. How are you kind of assessing his profile for this game?
Yeah, Green Bay, it definitely has a better defense, in my opinion. Minnesota is 17th in PFF's team defensive grades, so a little bit below average, really right at league average. But Justin Fields, from an efficiency standpoint, it isn't pretty so far. And obviously, lots of rookie quarterbacks who end up just fine in the NFL figure this out. But right now, he's outside the top 30 quarterbacks in total QBR, true passer rating, expected points added, fantasy points per game. There's definitely some room to grow with Justin Fields. It's great that we've seen over 70 yards rushing in 2 of his last 4 games and over 40 yards rushing in 3 of his last 4 games. So the floor is there and there's a little bit of a ceiling as well. But honestly, he's the one that makes me a little bit nervous. Obviously, quarterbacks end up in the optimal lineup a lot in Yahoo scoring formats. But at the same time, there is a 6-point score in his range of outcomes here if you play this slate over and over in a way that I don't think Kirk Cousins really has in his range. His floor is, Fields' floor is definitely lower.
I probably agree with you. They're simply without the rushing there and the ability to rely on the running back that we're going to discuss here now. Hey, it's Dalvin Cook. He seems like a pretty good play on this slate. Looking at Awesemo's tools, no doubt about it. 44.4% chance to finish with the top score. He's got a massive projection. We have a game environment that in Chicago in December, you would expect that it would be on the ground. It's Minnesota that, Zimmer's still there. I don't know how, but he's still there and he still wants to pound the rock and play quote unquote defensive football without a defense. So how are you feeling about Dalvin Cook being the most popular play on the slate?
Completely get it. He probably has roughly a 75% chance of being in the optimal lineup between the superstar position and just a regular flex play. You got to remember that Alexander Mattison is on the COVID-19 list, so that he won't be available. So they have a smattering of availability. I'm not going to get this name right. Kini Nwangwu is their backup. And
it's we're not even going to talk about him because Alexander Mattison is gone. He's gone. Sadness.
Yeah, and so essentially that means Dalvin Cook is going to get all the workload. He won't be spelled at all. And we saw what the game that we knew he was capable of having that we really hadn't seen in 2021. 27 carries, 3 targets, only gets 1 reception, still ends up with 222 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns, eating people's soul in the running game. Absolutely in the range of outcomes. Chicago Bears have the 28th best PFF graded defense. Not very good.
Yeah, not very good. Not the Chicago Bears defense of old either. These are not your grandparents' Chicago Bears. We'll put it that way. The reason that I kind of poo-pooed the other guy, I didn't mean to just say, I don't want to Nwangwu, but I will say CJ Ham, if in the event that Dalvin Cook were to get hurt, your backup is CJ Ham. He's a fullback out of Augustana College in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Check that one out, Makachevsky. How you like them apples? It helps when they played college football in your hometown, but whatever. I digress. CJ Ham, he's been an all-pro multiple years here now with the Vikings as a fullback, and there aren't many left in the regime. But in the event that you were to have Dalvin Cook get hurt, I guarantee you it would just become CJ Ham doing little 3-yard just duck in the middle of the field. So prepare yourself for that.
Matt Asiata. You remember that?
Yeah.
Matt Asiata
baby.
Took over.
Well, I mean, how about Juszczyk first touchdown yesterday? That was ultimate tilt. And then Jeff Wilson got there anyway, so we don't have to worry about it. Now we go from the hometown CJ Ham, my hometown team, to my alma mater, David Montgomery. How about that segue? Iowa State here. Iowa State's finest, David Montgomery. We've got a pretty good one coming out in Breece Hall too, but we'll prepare. We'll see where he ends up landing. David Montgomery, though, I am surprised looking at some of the projections, looking around the industry here, because I feel like, yes, you saw Khalil Herbert gets a little bit of work here and there, but this is David Montgomery's backfield. You got to expect that they want to probably try to slow this down a little bit. How do you look at David Montgomery on this slate?
Honestly, he's looking surprisingly good to me. Now,
I love him. Good. Yeah.
I did recently do a crunch designed for large field tournaments, and I will be getting over the field on Khalil Herbert just because I want to be different there. But that is not to say I dislike David Montgomery. We saw a little bit of volatility in his opportunity, as we're alluding to here. 21 carries 2 weeks ago, but only 10 carries last week. Here's the big thing. he has seen 16 targets in his last 2 games. The 16 targets in a 2-game span, I went back and checked this, is his largest amount of targets in a 2-game span in his entire career. So obviously that could fall off, but what you really need is in a negative game script, do they not move away from David Montgomery? Do they keep dumping it off to him? And we're finally actually seeing Justin Fields do that. He's had at least 80 yards from scrimmage in the last 2 games here. The floor is pretty high, and I think the salary is pretty decent too. So I'm probably going to be pretty high on David Montgomery in my final crunch.
I'm right there with you. And again, I do think there is some merit to looking at a guy like Khalil Herbert. Damian Williams is just non-existent, but it's almost like they watched his college tape and decided, hey, maybe he can catch passes while Damian Williams is on the COVID list. And sure enough, oh, surprise, David Montgomery's a freak athlete. So give him the football, and you're probably in better situations than anywhere else here. Khalil Herbert, definitely probably the number 2 there. And then Jakeem Grant gets kind of mixed in, but we'll get to him at the wide receiver position here. But just a guy that gets gadget carries, as you would expect. But anything else for you from the running back position from either side?
I think that pretty much covers it. 2 studs here who we could easily see have 85% snap shares plus and 75% opportunity shares each.
People saying Brock Purdy's name here. It was such a sad year here. I can't wait to bet against them going up against Clemson, depending on how many guys are out for Clemson here for their bowl game. Everybody's looking forward to the Cheez-It Bowl, right? That's the Iowa State. No, nobody's looking forward to that. Let's keep it moving here. Hit that like button while we're at it. We've got 140, almost 150 people hanging out here on a Monday afternoon before the Live Before Lock show, which comes up here in just short of it'll be half an hour. You get a half an hour potty break basically, right? You're coming right back?
That's right. Yep. Just spin around, do a little, jumping jacks and back on the show. Excited for it.
What are you going to do with that half hour? To give the people the honest take. What are you going to do for half an hour?
Genuinely going to drink a bunch of water and pound food as fast as I can.
All right. That's a boring take, but I appreciate it. I'm going to probably do the exact same thing. Let's get to it. Wide receiver position, Justin Jefferson. He's very good at football. Talk to me about him.
Yeah, a level of floor and ceiling really only rivaled by players like Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp. That's the kind of level I'm putting Justin Jefferson at this point in his second season, following up a fantastic rookie year, breaking all sorts of rookie wide receiver records, and now having a sensational sophomore season. The dude has had double-digit fantasy points in every single game except for one, and he's had six catches, a touchdown, or both in 85% of his games this season. That's pretty good. If you wanted to fade Dalvin Cook and just lean on Justin Jefferson, not only is that not crazy, but I think that could end up winning a lot of people a lot of money, because Dalvin Cook certainly has a level of safety based on the position he plays, but Jefferson's ceiling is 30 fantasy points, 35 fantasy points, exactly what Cook did last week.
I think my entire job today is just finding segues. And hey, shout out to Mike Lawrence, our guy behind the scenes here, doing the producing here today. You might know him as Awesemo. You'll see him from time to time around the chat rooms, all the time, actually. But I will say, Jalen Reagor, good pick. Thank you, Philly. Justin Jefferson, definitely going to be somebody.
That video. Sorry, Eric. I love that video of the very subdued freak out of the Vikings once they realized Reagor got picked, and everyone starts going
it's happening. It's happening. It was literally it was the Michael Scott "It's happening" meme, and my Twitter. Oh my God, it was the best day ever. Followed by more heartbreak. Weird. Welcome to being a Viking fan. Adam Thielen, the big question mark for me on this entire slate. I like Kirk Cousins a lot more if you get Thielen. Not that KJ Osborne hasn't been serviceable here. 12.7, 15.8. But when we talk about achieving a ceiling, KJ Osborne can still be on the field in the event that you have Kirk Cousins out there, but it's just another weapon, another guy in the arsenal who would play 90% plus of snaps, makes an easier stacking option. How do you look at Adam Thielen and kind of assess him if he's going to be in? And then how do you assess KJ Osborne if he's going to be out?
I think Adam Thielen is going to be out. I don't know anything that other people don't, but when you don't practice all week and you can't make it through a Friday walkthrough, I'm very concerned about your availability here. I get it. There's multiple days there in between where he's able to rest and possibly get better. But if you miss practice all week, I usually lean towards you being out. If he's in, the latest run of lineups I made with him being in, I have him in a really large amount of lineups, like a third of my lineups between the superstar spot and just a regular flex play here. That's really because he has touchdown upside. He doesn't need to have a 10 target, 12 target game like Justin Jefferson really has to hit his ceiling. Thielen can have 7 targets, 3 of them in the end zone. That is something that is very much in the range of outcomes here. The Bears are going to be without safety Eddie Jackson, which I think is going to create problems anyway, and it's going to create a whole host of problems if both Jefferson and Thielen are getting loose in the secondary.
And Deshaun Jackson get a TD today? I don't know. Well, that'll be on the 2-gamer for sure. I will say Adam Thielen, if you're playing the 2-game slate, I think is probably my favorite wide receiver play, because in the event that he's in, not many people will be able to pivot to him, or they'll have to leave a bunch of salary on the table coming down from Jefferson. There's a lot of salary constraints, both on Yahoo and other sites that would be created. But for showdown purposes, I think you're right. We'll have the information. We'll know what to do. But I'm probably closer to a 50-50. I really have no idea. I would probably lean on him playing if you had to give me a side, simply because it's a must win for any kind of playoff consideration. He's from Minnesota. He bleeds purple already. So I got to say, I'd say if he is able to go physically whatsoever, he probably will. But regardless, let's go over to this Chicago side. And I don't know what to tell you. Mooney is a great play. We have Jakeem Grant, who last week was a great play. Is he going to be one this week? I have no idea. But Allen Robinson is out for COVID protocols. I think that opens up some extra opportunity, even though Allen Robinson has not necessarily been serviceable. How do you look at Mooney, who's been the number 1 here for Chicago, and then all of these ancillary wide receiver options?
Yeah, Mooney is the de facto number 1 wide receiver for sure. He's actually led the NFL in target shares 2 weeks this season already. That's pretty impressive. Now, I know that has to be contextualized because the Bears don't throw that often, so getting a higher target share is not as hard. But still, Mooney is the clear number 1 wideout if you look at the whole season as a sample size. But over the last few weeks, we've actually seen Damiere Byrd kind of open up, get more production. As you mentioned, Jakeem Grant. Cole Kmet isn't going away. Cole Kmet actually had 5 targets last week, and that was the most of any skill position, non-running back player. So at a certain point, I think Darnell Mooney is a fine play, but one that has a little bit more downside than his median projection might suggest. Not to mention the fact that Justin Fields can just throw up a true dud, and you want no Bears wide receiver. That's absolutely in the range of outcomes here. The one thing I do want to add is that one thing I will be doing is boosting up the Bears defense. On Yahoo, there are no kickers, right?
No kickers. So we get to only deal with defense. Yep.
Right. So I'm boosting up the Bears defense and special teams when I have Jakeem Grant in the lineup, thinking maybe he gets a special teams touchdown and I can double dip.
I'm going to ask this now so that I don't forget. Dave DeRemery is a guy who's always in the chat, always hitting everybody else up on Twitter. Whenever he's having these massive wins, he's on a massive sports betting heater. I know that. But he said, the problem I have with David Montgomery is that I like Fields. Can we play both together? I got to be thinking that they're more positively correlated than what you think. First of all, 16 catches, right? It was just not even targets, 16 catches the last 2 weeks, or maybe it was targets. I just know he's had a lot of receiving volume of late. But if this Bears offense is going to be successful, I think I'm primarily thinking it's going to be through those two. And I don't think they're extremely cost prohibitive on Yahoo to get together. How about yourself?
Yeah, I don't think I'm creating a rule where I'm saying they can't be played together, but I don't necessarily say I have enough of a sample size to know that they are positively correlated. We have seen some samples of rushing quarterbacks actually being a little bit more positively correlated with their main running back. But it's not enough of a situation where I'm going to lean that way. I'm actually looking up, seeing if I can get Fields and Montgomery's correlation this season. It's not particularly high.
But it's not like some negatively stapled thing.
It's negative 0.4. So it's actually pretty negative.
That's pretty negative.
Pretty big for.
Okay, well, never mind. Take it away. Both guys who probably need to get relied on to get there on the ground. But again, I think if this offense is going to be effective, those two are probably one of the two is definitely a reason why, maybe both. But at 27 and 25, placing them in and still getting cooked, that does become cost prohibitive. You get $17 per. You're not playing a quarterback, and that is always. You're not playing Justin Jefferson or Kirk Cousins, and that is a dicey proposition. So definitely going to be some fun type builds you can do for this game. And I am kind of siding more on the Damiere Byrd side. just because of what I think the ownership could look like. Just kind of thinking through this in a vacuum, like you just saw. I mean, of course, Mooney's the number one, and I'm not going to poo-poo anything there. But looking at Jakeem Grant's last week, do I expect him to take 3 targets and turn that into 17.6? Considering one was a special teams touchdown? No, I absolutely do not. So I think that we could be looking that direction. Anything else for you from wide receiver?
From the wide receiver position, man, like legitimately no. Is Marquise Goodwin playing in this game or no?
That's a great question. These are things I should maybe know. He's doubtful, I know, coming into it. Let's see. Yeah, it just says doubtful. I'm going to say probably not.
I agree. Then really, there really isn't anything else here. It's Bird, Grant, and of course, Mooney.
Yeah, he should have been an Olympian. Marquise Goodwin. That would have been a good thing. I think he was trying to be in the Olympics. That's what I had heard once upon a time. Maybe that's a small. Maybe I had a dream about that. I don't know. Sure, Google exists.
Yeah.
Google exists. We can find that out real quick. Let's go to tight end here because we've got 7 minutes. I want to make sure we get you out of here promptly on time so we can get you some food here and, get you all set for Lofty here in half an hour. Again, that is 4 p.m. We have the NFL Live Before Lock show. Two gamer here today. We'll have more information with them for that Vegas and Cleveland game. So let's jump on over here to tight end. As you had said, Cole Kmet definitely going to be a serviceable option. Tyler Conklin on the other side here for Minnesota. He's definitely seen some upside in previous weeks. I'm not super enthusiastic. For me, it really comes down to what are their prices on Yahoo. And looking at somebody like Tyler Conklin at $15, I could definitely see myself landing on that. But Cole Kmet at $12, man, I got to be expecting that to be very popular. I like playing him. If you want to leave salary on the table, any lineup you have with Jakeem Grant, turn it into Cole Kmet, and you're probably avoiding some duplication. How do you feel about Cole Kmet in this spot?
Big agree here. I probably like Cole Kmet from a value standpoint better than I like Conklin or KJ Osborne, even if Adam Thielen doesn't play here. Kmet has had 25 targets since week 10, which is the most on the Bears except for Darnell Mooney. That's pretty solid. The only thing I really dislike about Cole Kmet is that they clearly have red zone and goal line packages for Jimmy Graham that aren't going away. Since week 10 in that same span, Jimmy Graham actually leads the team in red zone target share. I don't know if that's rational, but that's real. So that takes away from Kmet for me. You need touchdowns from middling salary tight ends in order for them to really pay off. And if I don't have as much touchdown upside as I would normally have with a tight end, it gets tough for me to say it's a must play.
Can I interest you in some Chris Herndon here, former Jet, that could be the backup tight end du jour here tonight? Can I interest you in some Jimmy Graham, somebody that you had thrown out there? There's a human being named Patrick Scales. I've never heard of him, but apparently he played last week, and that's interesting. Didn't see a target there. I'm just looking at this $10 number here. Damiere Byrd, I think, would be my favorite out of everybody down there at $10. But, man, it is bleak. And trying to figure out who that tight end du jour could be for showdown here. Luke Stalker, another dude, but no, I would definitely go to the Herndon side more. Do you have any of these guys even in your pool?
I have Graham in my pool. I'm going to be honest, I don't have Scales or Herndon in my latest builds. Maybe I need to go back and look at Chris Herndon and his availability here. I had kind of been a little hopeful about the way that they were using Conklin, especially in the middle of the season, but that has seemed to fade a little bit. At least there's definitely some volatility between Osborne's usage and Conklin's usage. You're not really seeing both of them hit at the same time. Honestly, I don't want that low of an auxiliary option on Justin Fields' offense. That's how I'm saying.
Right there with you. Jimmy Graham, again, it sucks, but he's got to be in the pool because you alluded to it. Why? Just why are they doing this to us? But you know what? They don't care about DFS. They care about winning football games. Well, it would appear that way sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't seem so. But hey, defense, we got 3 minutes here. Give us some lovely defensive takes on the way out here. How do you feel about the Vikings defense that has been better of late, but that's not saying much?
Yeah, the Vikings defense is 17 in salary, and it's 17th in PFF's defensive grades. You can play a defense on a slate where they are almost touchdown favorites. It's not a very high total game, at least for all of the NFL. For week 15, it's kind of high. So I don't think it's a bad play. I don't think it's a necessary play either. It kind of comes out as a middling value with a fairly low ceiling. It's very, very hard to predict when a defense is going to have multiple scores. We've actually seen defenses on Yahoo get a defensive touchdown and not be in the optimal. So that's also low probability. But the real one I will say is the Bears defense is going to be a hyper contrarian play. If you're looking for a way to just like play a bunch of chalk and then one off the wall play, the Bears defense can do that for you at $10. We've seen Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings implode in spots before. Not impossible here, but unlikely.
All right. So let's round it out with this. I think this is a fun way to finish a 2-gamer here. Let's talk a build, shall we? Can we do one build? Can we do that off the cuff here, Mike? I think that would be awfully fun to talk through. Let's build a lineup here. We'll build 4 parts of it here. I'll let you go first. Who do we want to have backing us in the superstar spot?
In the superstar spot, let's go with JJ. Let's go with Justin Jefferson. Dalvin Cook if I'm trying to beat a small field. JJ if I'm doing a large field tournament this week.
All right. And it's half-point PPR. So I got to think if we're going to put Justin Jefferson and he's going to be up there to get 2 touchdowns, it's impossible for me not to click on Kirk Cousins alongside that. So if we're going to start with this build, Justin Jefferson there in the superstar, let's go to Kirk Cousins here. I think you just kind of have to do that. As much as I'd like to play Dalvin Cook in that build, for Justin Jefferson, it would have to be a pretty low scoring game. And again, 45.5, that's a higher total than you'd expect for an NFC North divisional rivalry in Chicago this time of year. So that's a pretty easy click. Number 3, go right ahead.
Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Let's take a shot, and it'll make it easier for our next picks. Let's take a shot on Damiere Byrd and have that be our value play and say that maybe he continues to see more opportunity than Mooney.
All right, so we're going to go Damiere Byrd. I love that call. Again, I think that that's another way to get different where if you have builds, Jakeem Grant, I think is going to get steamed up pretty high. And sure, he's involved, but he's got both touchdowns there last week were just kind of fluky to me. One on a big end around, took it to the house, and then obviously the 95-yard return. So I'm there with you. So we've got Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, Damiere Byrd. I'm going to be clicking on the Adam Thielen button here. I think that one's going to probably be the next one, and that's going to price you out of playing David Montgomery, which is a huge bummer. And now we've got $24 per, but we're going to leave a lot of salary here on the table, I think, in this build. I'm going to put Adam Thielen in there, and just in the event that he's out, obviously you don't want to be doing that, but I think that he makes a very, he'll be under-owned compared to what he normally would be. People always have injury concerns. So he's my click there. Give us our last player in.
Yeah, so let's ensure that we leave at least $3 on the table here because we want to be able to pivot up to Montgomery, who's $1 more than Thielen, or Justin Fields, who's $3 more. So let's have that flexibility in there. That's going to be pretty easy. So let's do KJ Osborne at 18. Not my favorite play, but I think I like him just a little bit more than Conklin.
And in the event that you have Adam Thielen that's going to be out, you could get to Mooney with Osborne, and then you would still have the flexibility to turn it into David Montgomery or Justin Fields. I think that that's a definite great build. Justin Jefferson has the upside to get there in the superstar spot. Dalvin Cook will be the most popular one, so I think you're avoiding some duplication there. Awfully darn good lineup to round this one out. Matt, so fun to hang out with you here on a Monday afternoon. Glad we were still able to do our show together here. Make sure you check him out on Live Before Lock, starting up here in half an hour. But any final words for the people before you go chow down a sandwich?
Yeah, happy Monday night slate. It's awesome we get extra football. Stay safe. I'll see you guys when we get to the I don't know if I'm covering tomorrow's game. So Thursday for me.
Ooh, Thursday. So you get look at you just getting to hang out a little bit here.
An hour.
You're just fine. Thank you so much to Mike Lawrence. Awesemo behind the scenes, doing a great job producing. He's Matt. He'll be right back. I'm Eric. I'll see you guys tonight, 7:15 p.m. Eastern time, breaking down this game once again with my friend Neil Orfield. We'll see you soon.